We're going to begin, though, with Canada's fight to bring the cost of living under control, a fight that has hit a setback. After reaching 2.8% in June, the country's inflation rate reversed course last month, climbing to 3.3%. What's driving that number? The cost of things we need. Grocery prices are nearly 3 times the rate of inflation, up 8.5% from last year. The price of electricity shot up 11.7%. The biggest mover, though, was the interest people are paying on their mortgages. That's up a record 30.6% in the past year because of historic interest rate increases. NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh joins me now from Edmonton. Mr. Singh, welcome back to Power and Politics.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'd like to begin with your reaction to today's inflation numbers, sir, up 3.3% year over year. You released a statement earlier today saying the Bank of Canada's policies are causing the inflation they're supposed to prevent. Could you explain that further?
Certainly. The two main areas where inflation is up is mortgage payments and rent, in addition to that's housing, in addition to groceries. And we've known for a long time that the increased interest rates that domestically don't impact grocery prices and don't have any influence over them, and they've been the most stubborn to come down because they're not influenced by domestically set interest rates. And so Canadians are feeling that. They're feeling the pain of their grocery bills continuing to be very high. Even though it's come down a little bit, it's still over 8%, which is quadruple what the target is for inflation. And mortgage payments are up 30%. They're significantly higher than before. And so what people are experiencing right now in terms of the pain of this inflationary period, a portion of that, a significant portion, is being caused by the very policies of the Bank of Canada. So we've been saying for a long time.
Interest rates have been traditionally the key tool of monetary policy to curb inflation. If that's the driver, how then solve the problem?
Well, that's normally a solution if the cause is something domestic. But in the case that we're facing, economists have all come to a strong consensus that the inflation that we're experiencing is because of the war in Ukraine, supply chain issues, and the legacy impact of COVID. Neither of those issues are impacted by domestically set interest rates. And that's why the major concerns around interest rates, or the major concerns around inflation, haven't actually been tackled. Grocery prices have not been significantly impacted by increasing interest rates because they're resilient to that. They're not impacted by the interest rate set by the Bank of Canada. And we're seeing that in the numbers. And what we're really seeing in terms of what people are experiencing is a lot of pain when it comes to trying to keep a roof over their head and put food on the table. And the Bank of Canada is not actually making it any easier.
So when it comes to, as you say, housing, one of the key elements to all of this, you've been spending the summer, I know, traveling the country and speaking to Canadians about this very issue. What's the overall picture you're getting?
Well, when we started the tour over the summer, we were in Northwest Territory, so in the north. We went to the Atlantic provinces, spent time in Toronto and the surrounding GTA, in southwestern Ontario, spent time in Quebec. And what we're hearing is people cannot find a place to rent. The vacancy rates are very, very low. The rents themselves are increasing very dramatically. Mortgage payments are going up in a very dramatic and fast way. And people are having a really hard time when it comes to finding a place that's in their budget. In Edmonton, where I am today, there is a report that came out almost just under 50,000 Edmontonians are in core housing need, which means that they're either in a place that's outside their budget or in a home that doesn't meet the needs in terms of how big their family is, or is unsafe. So there's real needs and people are feeling very squeezed.
Okay. There's another new report that came out today, in fact, on specifically the rental housing crisis, and I'm going to be speaking to the authors of that in just a few minutes. But they lay out recommendations for solving this crisis, and there's a key line in their report which reads, adding substantial new supply to address rental affordability is key to solving the housing crisis. And I took that, it seems to be at odds with what you've said this week in Edmonton. Supply is an issue, but increasing it, in your estimation, won't get more people into homes. What then do you see as the main problem?
Well, it's not, I wanted to be very clear on this, it's not any old supply, it's the right type of supply. If we just build more private, developed homes for sale, it's not going to address the key problem which was identified, which is a lack of rental housing. We need purpose-built rental, and purpose-built rental that is affordable. And so what I really wanted to highlight is that we need to look at the type of buildings or the type of homes that we're building. We need to see specifically affordable rental, and we also need to see non-market housing.
Okay.
What we heard from people is that they couldn't afford the market rents and the market cost of housing. And so if we build more market housing, it's not going to solve the problem of not having enough rental that's affordable, nor will it solve the problem for those that have decent jobs and can't afford the market rates of rent and purchasing a home.
So one of the things that you've talked about in getting to more affordable purpose-built rentals is waiving the federal portion of the GST-HST. And indeed, this report flags that specifically as one of its recommendations. What do you think about that as sort of an endorsement, really, for what you've been talking about?
Yeah, I think that is encouraging, and we built this idea based on what experts had suggested. So we think that we need to see that type of incentive to ensure that we're building more purpose-built rental that's affordable. We need a good definition of affordability. But we also need to see the federal government take a more active role. And so far, what we've seen is a lack of urgency. And recently, when the Prime Minister was asked, Justin Trudeau said, well, it's not my job. It's not my responsibility. And that is not going to solve the problem. Trying to point fingers or blaming the province or municipalities. What we need to do is actually acknowledge that every level of government can play a significant role. The federal government has very substantial levers that they can use to build more homes that are affordable. We used to do that in Canada after the World Wars. A lot of the homes that people first bought were post-World War homes built by significant federal investments. We need to get back to that very active role of the federal government to build homes. We can't be blaming, as the Prime Minister has done. We can't be like the Conservatives that are saying just do more of the same. We need a very targeted approach, non-market housing, purpose-built affordable rental, and we need to solve this problem urgently.
Is a national housing summit something that you'd like to see?
Well, we know that, of course, bringing people together to discuss the problem is always helpful, but right now we really need that action, and we know some of the things that can be done right away. We talked about also keeping the affordable homes that we do have, the affordable buildings, keeping them affordable with an acquisition fund modeled after what the government, the NDP government in BC is doing with that acquisition fund so that people don't get rent-evicted or dem-evicted, which is a big concern. We've heard that across the country. People live in a place that is affordable. It's bought up by a developer. They're evicted. The place is renovated. It goes back on the market for double, triple, quadruple what it was before. That's something we want to prevent. And we really need to see the federal government act quickly to start building more homes that are affordable and non-market.
And on that point, I believe you used the word leverage earlier. How much pressure are you willing to bring to bear? Will you leverage your agreement with the Liberal government in terms of pushing the government on housing policy?
Well, we have been pushing the government, and we're going to continue to push the government. What we've shown in the past is that we have pushed for things that are, of course, in the agreement and things outside the agreement. When we got the government to double the GST rebate 2 years in a row, that put more money back in people's pockets. That's something that was not in the agreement, and we were successful in obtaining. So we're going to do that again, continue to apply pressure, knowing that Canadians are expecting some real immediate action to deal with the housing crisis. We need that urgency from the federal government. So far, we have not seen that. 8 years of Justin Trudeau, things have gotten worse, not better when it comes to housing. And so we'll use the pressure that we have, the power that we have, to put pressure on the government to act.